My name is Anna, and I live in a quiet little town in the south of Italy. Since I was a teenager, I always dreamed of speaking English fluently. I wanted to watch movies without subtitles, travel the world, and make international friends. But every time I tried to learn English, I failed after a few weeks. The grammar was confusing, the words were hard to remember, and I felt shy speaking. I told myself, maybe I am just not good at languages. So, I stopped trying, and my dream stayed only a dream until one special day. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon when my phone rang. I was making coffee and looking out the window. It was my cousin Maria, who lives in London. She sounded very excited and said, "Anna, I have amazing news." I smiled and said, "Tell me, Maria. What happened?" She said, "There's a job opening at the hotel where I work. They need someone who speaks Italian too. I told them about you." My heart started to beat faster. "A job? In London?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "You have 4 months to prepare. But you need to speak some English." After the phone call, I sat on the sofa for a long time. My hands were shaking a little, and my coffee was cold. A job in London was my dream, but I was scared. How could I learn English in just 4 months? I thought about my quiet life, my small job in the bakery, and the feeling that nothing ever changed. Then I thought about walking in London, working at a hotel, speaking English to people from around the world. I smiled. It was now or never. I decided to take the chance and said to myself, I will learn English in 4 months. I must. The next morning, I woke up early. I took an old notebook from my drawer and wrote on the first page, "Learn English, start today." I made a list of things I needed: beginner videos, a notebook, a dictionary app, and a strong will. I started with simple YouTube videos like English for Beginners, Day 1. The teacher said, "Hello, my name is Sarah," and I repeated, "Hello, my name is Anna." I felt strange talking to my phone, but I kept going. That day, I watched 5 videos, wrote down 20 new words, and felt proud of myself. Each day, I followed a schedule. I studied for 1 hour before work and 1 hour before bed. I listened to English music while cleaning the house and watched English cartoons during lunch. I created small labels and put them on things in my room: mirror, door, window, bed. I tried to think in English, even just a little. When I made tea, I said, I am making tea. When I walked to work, I said, I am walking to work. It was difficult, but I was slowly building a new habit. I was changing, step by step. I decided to make a small English corner in my room. I cleared a table near the window and placed my notebook, pens, and flashcards on it. I put up sticky notes with English words on the wall and wrote a big sign that said, English only. Every evening, I sat at that table with a cup of tea and studied for an hour. It became my favorite part of the day. The sun would go down, the house would get quiet, and I would dive into my English world. I wasn't just learning words, I was building a new version of myself. After 2 weeks, I realized something important: I forget words quickly. I needed to see them many times before they stayed in my mind. So I made flashcards using small pieces of paper. On one side, I wrote the English word. On the other side, I wrote the meaning in Italian and a sentence. For example, brush, spazzola, I brush my hair every morning. I carried 5 flashcards with me every day. On the bus, during breaks at work, even while waiting in line, I read them. Repetition became my best friend. Speaking English was the hardest part. I didn't know anyone who spoke English, and I felt nervous speaking out loud. But I read online, "Speak to yourself." So I did. I stood in front of the mirror every morning and spoke simple sentences. Today is sunny. I feel happy. I will go to work. At first, I felt silly. But slowly, I started to enjoy it. I watched my mouth, listened to my voice, and practiced speaking clearly. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And every day, it got a little better. One evening, I found a playlist called Easy English Songs. I played the first song and followed the lyrics on the screen. It was slow and simple, and I understood a few lines. I wake up in the morning, I open my eyes. I smiled, I understood that. I listened to that song 5 times and sang along. The next day, I played it again, and I knew even more words. English music became a part of my routine. Songs helped me learn sentence rhythm, new phrases, and pronunciation. And they made studying feel like fun, not work. After 1 full month of learning, I decided to test myself. I opened a beginner English video and didn't pause it this time. To my surprise, I understood almost everything. Simple sentences, yes, but still, I understood them. I laughed out loud and clapped my hands. I felt like a child learning to ride a bike and staying up for the first time. It was a small victory, but for me, it meant the world. I was doing it. I was really learning English. One morning, I opened my Instagram and saw a post from a travel page I follow. They asked, "What is your favorite place in the world?" Usually, I would skip posts like this because I was afraid to write in English. But that day, I took a deep breath and typed, "My favorite place is Rome. I like the history, the food, and the beautiful streets." I checked it 5 times before posting. Then I pressed send. My hands were shaking a little, but I was proud. It was my first real sentence to the world, in English. After that, I started writing short comments on posts. Sometimes I made mistakes, but I didn't stop. One day, I read a comment someone wrote in English, and I didn't understand it at all. It had phrasal verbs like get along, hang out, and figure out. I looked them up and realized I had a new weak spot, phrasal verbs. So I made a new list just for them. Each day, I learned 5. I get up at 7. We hang out at the cafe. I figured out the problem. Soon, they became part of my speaking too. Maria sent me a link one day. "Try this app," she said. "You can chat with people who want to learn languages." I downloaded it and made a profile. "Hi, I'm Anna. I'm learning English and I can help with Italian." Soon, someone from Brazil sent me a message in English. "Hello, Anna. Nice to meet you." I was nervous, but I replied. We talked about simple things, food, weather, pets. I made 3 new friends in 1 week, and we practiced every day. I was finally using English with real people. Not every day was easy. One Friday, I was very tired. I had worked all day and tried to watch an English video, but I couldn't focus. I kept pausing, rewinding, and still didn't understand. I felt stupid. I closed my notebook and said, "I can't do this. I'm not good enough." Tears came to my eyes, and I wanted to quit. But then I remembered my promise, to myself and to Maria. I made tea, sat quietly, and said, one bad day doesn't mean I'm done. The next morning, I started again. 2 months had passed when Maria came to visit. She brought me chocolate and a big hug. "Let me hear your English," she said with a smile. I was nervous, but I said, "Hi, Maria. I'm happy to see you. I study English every day." Her eyes got big. "Wow. You sound great, Anna." We talked for 30 minutes, slowly, but in English. She helped me correct a few sentences and taught me new words. When she left, she said, "You're ready, Anna. Keep going. You're almost there." Her words gave me new energy. After Maria's visit, I felt more confident. I started speaking English out loud while doing simple things. In the kitchen, I said, "I am cutting vegetables." In the bathroom, I said, "I am brushing my teeth." At the supermarket, I whispered, "I need apples and milk." People looked at me sometimes, but I didn't care. The more I spoke, the more natural it felt. My mouth was learning the sounds, and my brain was learning the words. English was becoming part of my daily life. One Sunday, I decided to try something new. I picked an easy movie with English subtitles. It was a romantic comedy with simple dialogue. At first, I read the subtitles more than I listened. But after 30 minutes, I started to understand without reading. I laughed at the jokes and felt proud. I even repeated some lines out loud. It took me 2 hours to finish, but I loved it. That movie became a symbol of my progress. I had watched my first English movie and understood it. One of my language partners on the app sent me a voice message. I was scared to reply, but I knew I had to try. I recorded my voice. "Hi, thank you for your message. I am learning English. It's nice to talk with you." I sent it and waited. He replied, "Great job, Anna. Your pronunciation is clear." I smiled and felt brave. After that, I started sending one voice message every day. At first, they were short. Later, they got longer and more natural. I was no longer afraid of my own voice in English. One afternoon, I went to a tourist shop in town. 2 women were looking at postcards and speaking English. I smiled and said, "Hello. You like this city?" They looked surprised but happy. Yes, it's beautiful, one said. I tried to talk more but made many mistakes. Still, we laughed and had a short conversation. After they left, I felt embarrassed. But then I thought, I did it. I used English in real life. Mistakes didn't matter. Trying mattered more. 3 months had passed. I looked at my first notebook, full of words and simple sentences. Then I opened my new notebook, full of longer sentences, phrases, and small stories. I could see the difference clearly. I was no longer a beginner. I still had 1 month left, and I wanted to use it well. Now, I focused on speaking faster and understanding more. I started reading simple English news, listening to short podcasts, and practicing real conversations daily. I wasn't perfect, but I was strong. And I knew I was close to my goal. One morning, I decided to try something hard, a whole day with only English. No Italian, not even in my thoughts. I changed my phone language to English. I watched English videos, read English posts, and spoke only English at home. Even when I was alone, I said things like, "Where are my keys?" or "I need to clean the table." It wasn't easy. My brain felt tired by the evening, and I made many mistakes. But I did it. A full day in English. And I plan to do it again once a week. I joined a free online English class for beginners. It was my first time learning with other people. There were students from Turkey, Brazil, and Japan. We listened to the teacher, repeated phrases, and practiced speaking in small groups. When it was my turn, I said, "My name is Anna. I am from Italy. I love learning English." Everyone smiled and said I spoke very well. That moment gave me a big confidence boost. I wasn't the best, but I wasn't the worst either. I was part of something bigger. We were all learning together. One night, something amazing happened. I dreamed in English. In the dream, I was in a cafe in London. I ordered tea and talked to the waiter. I said, "Can I have a cup of tea, please?" He smiled and answered, "Of course, madam." When I woke up, I laughed and felt proud. My brain was changing. English was not just a language I studied, it was becoming a part of me. Even in my sleep, I was practicing. My language partner asked if we could talk on a video call. I felt nervous, but I said yes. We spoke for 15 minutes. He asked me, "What do you like to do on weekends?" I answered, "I like going to the park, cooking, and watching movies." He corrected a few small things, but he said, "You're doing great." After the call, I felt tired but happy. It was my first real voice conversation in English. And I didn't give up. Step by step, I was becoming a real English speaker. At the end of month 3, I sat down and made a plan. I wanted to visit London in my 4th month. It would be the final test of my English journey. I looked for cheap tickets, found a small hostel, and chose the dates. I still had 4 weeks before the trip, so I planned my days. Week 1, focus on travel vocabulary. Week 2, practice asking for directions and ordering food. Week 3, listen to fast English conversations. Week 4, practice speaking with strangers online. I was serious. London was waiting, and so was the new me. Each morning before work, I stood in front of the mirror and practiced travel questions. Excuse me, where is the nearest bus stop? How much is this ticket? Can I have a coffee, please? I said the sentences with a smile, just like a tourist. Then I answered myself with different voices. It was funny, but it helped a lot. I got used to the words, and I started speaking more fluently. I even practiced small jokes like, "This weather is very British today." I wanted to feel ready for anything in London. I found videos of tourists visiting London and watched how they spoke. They asked real questions, made real mistakes, and laughed a lot. I repeated their sentences and copied their pronunciation. I also watched short street interviews. People spoke fast, but I paused, repeated, and slowly understood more. One man said, "You all right?" And I thought, what does that mean? I learned it's a friendly British way to ask, "How are you?" These small things made English feel alive. It wasn't just grammar, it was real, human, and interesting. I realized something important. I wasn't afraid of English anymore. I made mistakes, yes. I forgot words sometimes, yes. But I didn't stop. I kept trying, kept speaking, and kept learning. One day, my friend said, "Anna, your English is really good now." I smiled and said, "Thank you. I work hard every day." And it was true. I was no longer afraid of English. I respected it. I enjoyed it. And I was ready to use it anywhere, even in London. The night before my trip, I packed my bag carefully. I put in my notebook, my favorite pen, and 5 flashcards just for luck. I'd also packed a small English book and a list of useful phrases. I checked my ticket, my passport, and my phone. I looked at myself in the mirror and said, "You're ready, Anna." I wasn't just going to London, I was walking into a new life. I turned off the light and tried to sleep, but my heart was full of excitement. Tomorrow, everything would be real. The moment I stepped off the plane, I felt a mix of fear and joy. All the signs were in English. People around me spoke fast. But I understood. At the airport cafe, I said, "1 tea, please," and the cashier smiled. I found my way to the hostel using English. When I got to my room, I looked out the window and whispered, "I did it. I was in London." I came with English in my suitcase and dreams in my heart. And now, it was time to live this dream. The next morning, I woke up early and had breakfast at the hostel. I sat next to a woman from Spain and said, "Good morning. Is this seat free?" She smiled and said, "Yes, of course." We talked for a while in English. Her English was not perfect, and mine wasn't either, but we understood each other. After breakfast, I walked through the streets of London. I saw red buses, old buildings, and people from all over the world. At every corner, I practiced speaking, asking for directions, ordering food, or just saying hello. This was my classroom now. London was teaching me English. In the afternoon, I wanted to visit the British Museum. I followed the map on my phone, but soon I got lost. I stopped a man and asked, "Excuse me, can you help me? I'm looking for the British Museum." He said, "Sure. Just walk straight, then turn left at the traffic light. You'll see it on your right." I thanked him and followed his directions. 10 minutes later, I found the museum. I felt proud. 1 year ago, I wouldn't have even asked for help. Now I could solve problems in English, and that gave me power. That evening, I joined a walking tour. There were 10 people in the group, all speaking English. The guide told funny stories about London's history. I listened carefully and even asked a question. Did the Queen ever live here? The guide laughed and said, no, not in this house, but she lives just down the road. Everyone laughed, and I felt brave. After the tour, 2 girls from Germany asked me, do you want to join us for coffee? I said yes. We talked in English for an hour. It felt natural. English was helping me make real friends. Each day in London, I had small victories. I bought a train ticket by myself. I asked a stranger to take my photo. I ordered lunch without looking at my notes. Even when people spoke fast, I didn't panic. I listened, thought, and responded. Sometimes I needed to say, sorry, can you say that again? And that was okay. The important thing was that I was speaking, listening, and living in English. Every moment was a chance to grow. And every small victory made me feel 10 feet tall. One evening, I sat in a small park with a notebook in my lap. I wrote a short message to myself in English. Dear Anna, I'm proud of you. You were afraid, but you didn't give up. You studied hard, practiced every day, and believed in your dream. Now you are in London, speaking English with real people. You're not perfect, but you're strong. Keep going. This is just the beginning. I closed the notebook and smiled. That message was the truth. I had changed. And English had helped me become a braver version of myself. On my 5th day in London, I went to a bookshop. I wanted to buy a simple English novel. A friendly man at the counter said, "What kind of books do you like?" I tried to answer, "I like stories, with feelings, love and life." I struggled with words. He waited patiently and helped me. Romance novels, or something emotional? I nodded, smiling. He gave me a book called The Quiet Heart. I thanked him and said, "Your English is perfect." He laughed and said, "Yours is too, for someone so brave." That was the hardest conversation I had, and one of the best. That evening, the hostel receptionist said, "We're having a movie night in the lounge. Come join us." I said yes, though I was nervous. 10 people sat on sofas, watching a movie in English. There were no subtitles. But I understood most of it. People laughed, cried, and made comments. I joined the conversation with small sentences. That part was sad, or he is a funny actor. No one corrected me. They just talked with me like a friend. It was the first time I felt like I belonged, in English. And I'll never forget that feeling. I called my parents from my room in London. They asked, "How is it going? Are you okay?" I said, "I'm not just okay, I'm amazing." I told them everything in Italian first. Then, I told them again in English, slowly. They didn't understand all the words, but they heard the pride in my voice. My mother said, "I can feel your smile, even if I don't understand your words." That made me emotional. I had worked so hard, and now I was shining. I promised myself I'd keep this light alive. On my last full day in London, I went to a cafe alone. I sat near two women talking. After a while, I said, "Sorry, may I ask where you're from?" They were from Canada and visiting for the first time. We talked for almost an hour. We shared stories, laughed, and even talked about life and goals. I didn't think about grammar or mistakes, I just talked. It felt real and easy. When I stood up to leave, one of them said, "Your English is beautiful." And I believed her. This was my final test, and I passed it with joy. The next day, I sat on the plane with a book in my hand. It was the same book the man at the bookshop had given me. I opened it and started reading in English. I didn't translate every word. I just read, and understood, and felt the story. For months ago, I was scared to speak one sentence. Now, English was part of my daily life, my dreams, my voice. I had learned English in 4 months, not perfectly, but deeply. And now, I was ready to continue learning for the rest of my life. When I returned home, everything felt different. I had been away for 4 months, but I was not the same person. My family noticed it first. My mom said, "Anna, you speak English like you've been doing it for years." My father smiled and said, "You sound confident now." I laughed and replied, "I feel confident." Even my friends saw the change. They asked, "What's your secret?" I told them, I practiced every day, no excuses. It wasn't a secret, it was just hard work and belief. And now, I was ready to keep going. Back at home, I continued to learn every day. I found new ways to learn words, flashcards, apps, and even songs. I started listening to English music and writing down new words. The songs were difficult, but I understood the main ideas. I would repeat the lyrics, trying to sing like the artists. It was fun, and I didn't feel stressed. I also used apps to practice new vocabulary and grammar. Learning English was no longer a chore, it was an adventure. I kept in touch with the people I met in London. One of them, Maria from Spain, invited me to visit her in Madrid. I accepted the invitation without hesitation. We planned to speak only in English when I arrived. It was a challenge, but I knew I could do it. Speaking with real people was the best way to learn. Every conversation made me better. Every new word and expression felt like a small victory. Learning English had opened doors for me. And I wasn't stopping. As I continued to learn, I started to dream bigger. I wanted to use my English skills to help others. I thought about teaching English to people who were like me 4 months ago. I could share my journey with them, how I started with nothing but determination. I could be the person who encouraged others to take that first step. I could show them that they, too, could speak English and live their dreams. That thought excited me. I wasn't just learning for myself anymore. I was learning to help others, too. One night, I sat down and wrote a letter to my past self. Dear Anna, I know you're scared. You're afraid of speaking in English, afraid of making mistakes. But I'm writing from the future, and I want to tell you this: don't be afraid. You will make mistakes, yes, but you will also learn. You will speak to strangers, watch movies in English, and read books without translating. You will go to London, and you will speak English with confidence. Keep going. It will be worth it. I closed the letter and smiled. I was no longer the person I was when I first started. I had grown, and the best part was, I still had so much more to learn. Now that I was back home, I felt a sense of pride. I had done something amazing, but I knew it wasn't the end. Learning English was a journey, not a destination. I still made mistakes, and that was okay. I wasn't looking for perfection, I was looking for progress. I joined online groups where people spoke English about books, movies, and travel. I felt excited to talk to new people, to learn from them, and to share my own stories. I started to believe that anything was possible. English had opened my eyes to a world of opportunities, and I wasn't going to stop. One day, I walked into a cafe, and I overheard a conversation in English. I didn't feel nervous. I understood everything they said. Without thinking, I joined the conversation and asked, "What do you think of this new cafe?" The strangers smiled and invited me to sit. We talked about the city, the weather, and our favorite books. It was a simple conversation, but it felt amazing. I realized that speaking English was no longer a challenge, it was a natural part of my life. I could speak to anyone, anywhere, and feel comfortable. I decided to share my English journey with others. I started a small blog where I wrote about my experiences, the mistakes I made, and the lessons I learned. I told people about my trip to London, how I practiced every day, and how I felt scared at first but kept going. People from all over the world started commenting. Some asked for tips on how to learn English, while others shared their own stories. I was helping others by telling my story, and that felt wonderful. I was no longer just a learner, I was a teacher, too. As I looked ahead, I realized something important: learning English was just the beginning. The world was full of possibilities. I dreamed of traveling more, visiting new countries, and speaking with people from different cultures. I thought about my future career. Maybe I could use my English skills to work in international business or even become an English teacher. I didn't know exactly where I was going, but I was excited. English had opened my eyes to a world I never thought possible. And now, I was ready to explore it all. On the anniversary of my English journey, I sat down and thought about how far I had come. From the first nervous steps, to speaking freely in London, to helping others learn. I smiled and felt proud. I had learned English in 4 months, but more importantly, I had learned how to believe in myself. I looked forward to the future with excitement, knowing that English would be with me every step of the way. My journey was far from over, it was just the beginning. And I couldn't wait to see where it would take me next.